Good morning, dear Stitchers. It's Judy with JBW Designs, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. I'm so grateful for all of those who have chosen to watch and made lovely comments. What else can I tell you about how grateful I am? This is Flosstube number 75, and it is Friday, the 10th of May. And it's just a beautiful sunny day here. But I have to tell you about the excitement that we had in Kalamazoo this week. But before I do that, I have to backtrack. I wanted to tell you about what I like to have a theme for the day. And so before I record a video, I spend a lot of time just writing an outline and thinking about what I want to tell you about. And today I just really wanted to talk to you about the creativity of the people in our stitching community, which to me is just amazing. And then I'm going to throw in a little history here and answer some questions that came up in the last video. And I have something absolutely wonderful to share with you. So thank you. Thank you for joining me and for watching. So what was the excitement in our community? Well, on Tuesday, we had the storms coming in. And this happens obviously in the spring in Michigan and across the U.S. And there were tornado warnings. So we get notifications on our phone, and that's pretty serious when you get a notification like that. So my husband was out doing errands, and I went down to the basement and listened. Actually, I was down there for several hours watching the local TV station announce where the tornadoes were touching down, which was really quite scary because it seemed to be moving, but we didn't know exactly what direction it was moving in. So long story short, we did have several tornadoes in Portage, which is a suburb south of Kalamazoo where we live. And actually one hit within a few miles of where my daughter and son-in-law and grandson Liam live. Thankfully, everybody in our family is safe. And quite a few people wrote to me because it actually was on the national news. It hit a FedEx facility and took out, like the middle of it. And so, yes, it was quite a day. And I was most worried about my husband because he's out heading to our son's house, which is about 40 minutes away. He had car trouble, so he'd called Mark to get help. And so he's blithely, wandering around the county. And I keep texting him messages saying, a tornado is here and a tornado is here. And, these are the intersections. You don't need to be driving. So thankfully, he finally stopped and at a place that we hoped was safe and kind of in a gas station, and they all went inside. So luckily, he listened to what my advice was because I didn't want him out driving in a tornado. So that was their excitement for the week. So I've told you about my theme for the day, and of course it's going to involve stitching, but it's going to involve many forms of stitching. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is the generosity and the love of friends in this community. And I received 2 gifts in the past week, and both are just beautiful. The first gift was from my friend Catherine, who lives out in California, and she just has such a creative style in her life. She not only does cross stitch, she does crochet and quilting and English paper piecing, and it's just so amazing to write back and forth and to hear what she's doing. So first of all, she sent this beautiful little card. Of course, it has a little French drawing on it, and then this sweet little note. And this is something that she made for my great-granddaughter. She said, "I enjoyed every slow and meditative stitch." And so she told me that she often, before her devotions in the morning, crochets a small square. And also, I want to backtrack here. She sent this beautiful tag, and it was so lovely wrapped. So she decided to make a blanket, a crocheted blanket for Nevaeh, who is our great granddaughter. And isn't this just gorgeous? I look at it and I think of the time and the love that went into each stitch. I'm so grateful, and thank you, Catherine. That was just amazing, because we have a special event coming up for Nevaeh next weekend. She's going to be dedicated, so this is going to be a gift along with something else that I have to show you. So that was one of my gifts this week. Isn't that amazing? And then my second gift came just 2 days ago, and I wasn't expecting it at all, of course. And this, again, I got a beautiful card. This is from Tricia. And Catherine doesn't have a social media presence that I know of, but Tricia sent a lovely gift, and I will post her Instagram name, etc., in the notes below. I'm not sure if she has an Etsy shop, but look what she sent. This beautiful little pouch, she calls them, and she has a tag here, "Made with Love" by Tricia. It is just so beautifully put together. So I went on her, I'll show you the inside of it. Look at that, isn't that just precious? I love every part of it. So I went on her Instagram post, and she is like Catherine. She does quilting, she does sewing, she does cross stitch. So isn't it impressive, all the kinds of things that people in our community are interested in? I actually don't know how you all have time to do all of that, because I can only concentrate on one little thing, which is cross stitch. But I have a story today, which it has several parts to it. So I'll tell you about the first part, and then I will show you my special item. So about 10 years ago, Kansas City Quilt Company, actually it was called Kansas City Star Quilts, asked me to write a book for them. And this was the result. And some of you may have heard this in my earlier videos, but I have so many new subscribers that some of this might be new for you. So the book I named Affectionately Yours. And the reason I did that is that I did cross-stitch designs for special occasions. So I think there are 11 or 12 designs in this book. It's now out of print. But of course, I'm keeping one copy for myself and my family in the future. But it was quite a long process to write this book, because first of all, I had to design so many different pieces, and the occasions that I chose to honor, I'm going to open it up here. Let's see. Oops. Sorry about that. I have to get to the index here first. I did an engagement gift. I did a bridesmaid's gift, a ring bearer's pillow, a wedding sampler, a birthday gift, a housewarming gift, a baby sampler, a birth sampler, and then an anniversary bell pull and a golden wedding anniversary piece. And so you had to write, and you had to not only design and photograph, and I want to tell you about the photography process. It was so much fun. So I actually went to Kansas City to be part of the process of photographing all the pieces in the book. And I have to tell you, you would have loved this process. They had a special photographer there with lighting, and we went to an antique store that was just fabulous. So we'd wander around the store, and the art director would look for antique pieces. Let's see if I can show you one that's really quite pretty here. I should have marked more ahead of time. Let's see here. I want to show you the baby one. So one of the designs was a little baby sampler, and they found a little baby crib, and they always posed all the colors that were just right. It was so much fun to be a part of. So one of the things that I had to do was to write an introduction. And I wrote an introduction about how our lives are filled with so many significant events. And one of them is a christening or dedication for a baby. And I had taken with me several of my things that I owned, including a christening dress. And the story of this christening dress is so remarkable to me because it was made by my mom before I was born, and that was a long time ago. And my mother at the time, my mother and dad lived in Milwaukee, and she did not own a sewing machine, which is not surprising. It was early in her marriage, and actually all her life she did a lot of sewing. She made clothes for us, she made clothes for herself, but it was always with a machine and never hand sewn. So the dress that I'm going to show you is so remarkable in that she stitched, let me get it here, she stitched the whole dress by hand. And I'm going to try to show you a close-up of it. All of everything, the little tucks, the inset lace, the tiny buttonholes on the back with the tiny buttons. It's quite long. I'm going to lift it up here. The hem, look at the detail in this. Every time I look at it, I marvel at the patience that it took for her to do this. And I'm so sad that I never talked to her in detail. I remember her telling me she didn't have a sewing machine, but I wish I had asked her, where did you get the pattern and where did you go to buy the batiste and the lace? There's a slip that goes with it, and there was a cap, and I'm sad to say that the cap has disappeared from our collection along the way, which I'm very sad about. But this dress, once Nevaeh is christened, will have been worn by 4 generations. So my siblings, my brother and sister, my children, my grandchildren, and now a great-grandchild. So also I want to show you one other thing. I'm going to tell you a little more about this. But do you see this hanger that I put it on? So I'm getting it ready to give to Kylie, Nevaeh's mother, tonight. And my friend Connie made a hand-smocked hanger. Now, Connie is another very creative person in my life because she, for years, she's no longer able to do it, made hand-smocked clothing. And I wish I had some of her children's clothes to show to you because they too were just wonderful. So that is the dress. And then here is, I can show you, the slip is equally as lovely with all these laces, little, what do I call it? I've lost track of what I'm calling them. The little hem and the lace at the bottom. So I am so grateful to have this in my life. So I'm going to show you some pictures. Kylie suggested that I make a book, and because I store the dress and the slip in a textile box, and so I'm going to she suggested I write a history of the dress, which I'm going to do, and then I'm gathering pictures of as many of my family as I can that wore the dress. And I'm sad to say I'm missing a lot, but I did find, this is kind of a funny picture, you're going to laugh at it, but this is a picture of my father and grandfather. Now you can't see their heads, but you can see that I'm wearing the dress. I was 3 months old when this was done, and the cap. And then this is a very sweet picture. My father is holding me up on his shoulder. So I think I'm going to enlarge those when I put them in the book. So here are a few other pictures, if you'll bear with me. This is Wyatt, who's our oldest grandchild, and my daughter-in-law, Brenda. And you can see Wyatt wearing the dress, and he was let's see, he also would have been 3 months old. And then here is a picture of Ellie, who's our youngest granddaughter, wearing the dress. And then I have a picture of Liam in the dress, probably much to Liam's chagrin, but we wanted to get a picture of him wearing the dress, and you can see how beautiful it is. So it's such an heirloom. I hope that you have heirlooms of a similar nature in your life. I will take a picture of Nevaeh, of course, and try to show you that in my next video. So I watched a video last night, speaking of history, that was so fascinating. And I thought, oh, I have to tell my viewers about this. So it's not, I'll tell you where the video is and how to find it. And, you can judge for yourself what you think, but the history part of it was absolutely fascinating. The video itself is very difficult to watch because it was a Zoom video, and you can only see the presenter like up in the corner and the sampler. So let me tell you about this. The video is done by the Litchfield Historical Society in Connecticut, and it is in regards to a new exhibit that just opened there, and the exhibit is called, I love this, Know My Name, How Schoolgirls Samplers Created a Remarkable History. And the presenter is a woman who I had never heard of, you may have, by the name of Alexandra Peters. And she has been collecting samplers for 40 years. None of them have been charted, but she has carefully curated and researched every single sampler. She has 160 samplers in her collection. She does show pictures of them in her home. It is amazing. It truly is amazing. But the part that I liked the best is that she is very much of an historian who wants us to recognize the part that girls played in our history with the samplers that they created, and the fact that many of them have signed their names to the samplers. And she talks about the importance of signing your name to a sampler and what it means to record this part of women in our history. And I just really liked the theme of that. So I know you might not be interested in samplers themselves or stitch them, but you might be interested in why that's so important. So I had to tell you about that. So let's move on. I have questions from the last video. So Gail asked, do I stitch in hand? And the answer is going to be, it depends on the project I'm working on. Actually, I used to stitch everything on Q-snaps, but in the last few years, I have been stitching in hand. And I think because it goes faster for me, I'm able to use the sewing method. But if I am stitching on over one on a 28 count linen, I always put it on a Q-snap because I can get it very taut, and when you're going over one, it's really important to be able to see the threads, and that keeps the whole piece easier to stitch on in a way because the threads or the holes are more open. So I hope that makes sense. Linda G asked if I would ever be charting more parts of the Flights of Fancy. And that is a question mark actually at this time. So you know that this is one of my new designs that was taken from an antique. It's Italian. You can see the Flights of Fancy over here on my left. And so there are so many other, this is such a big piece, but there are so many other interesting parts. And she was very interested in this part right here. The man on the steed. And so I always have to think about the things that I release. Are they going to be saleable? Because it is, let me put this aside here. It is so costly to do the initial printing of a piece, and so when you release something, of course you want it to sell. You don't want to be stuck with hundreds of copies of that design. So I'll be interested in your input on that question. Then just this morning, I noticed a comment from my last video about a question that I had asked, and it had to do with, I don't think I grabbed this pattern, but you've seen it. It had to do with my When Cardinals Appear new design. And a lot of people are stitching that in memory of someone. And I asked if you would put your own initials in, or if you would put the initials of the person you were trying to honor who had passed away. And this person had a very interesting comment. So her initials are GRM, and I wanted to acknowledge that because her comment was, if a friend of mine made that in memory of my son, she had lost a son and her parents, I would want to walk by it and see her initials so that I could remember what she did for me, which I thought was just a beautiful sentiment. GRM, I'm so sorry for your loss, but I thank you for making that comment and suggestion to all of us. So the last question that appeared in the last video had to do with what is your design process, and it really varies. And so that's going to be the last part of my video here. I'm going to show you a couple of different kind of categories of designs, and tell you what the process is for those. So I hope that this is something that you might be interested in. And I've talked about it before, but as I say, I have new people. So let me grab this right here, and let me put some things aside so that I have more room to talk to you about this. So, as you know, in the last probably 8 or 10 years, I've been doing more reproduction samplers. I've been buying antique samplers and doing only a portion of them. So this is a good example of my design process. So let me do this right side up. So when I was asked to be the surprise designer for Keepsake's Stitch Away, which was, a year and a half ago, Barbara, the owner, asked me to design a piece for this group. And of course, it's quite daunting. There's, I think, 150 people that are there. And I had purchased this sampler the previous summer because I absolutely loved the birds, the swallows, whatever. I was calling them bluebirds. Other people, I think, see swallows, which is fine. So this became the inspiration for let's see, this is kind of shiny, so you've seen this before, for the Bluebirds of Happiness design. So I took that part of the antique sampler and I used that, what I called a bluebird, in just 2 places on the design. And then I often use my reference books that I have on antique samplers, and first of all, I found a quote that I like, which was, "May the bluebird of happiness always reside within you." And then I found all kinds of antique borders that you can see here, here, down the side here, that I combined to make this sampler. So it was a combination of an antique motif and then things that I found in my reference books. So that's one kind of design that I do and how I approach it. And then there's another, let's see, a couple things I can show you. Sometimes, like in Flights of Fancy, I don't reproduce the whole sampler, I just find part of it that I like. So in this case, and this came out a couple years ago, this is a very interesting sampler because it actually is done on wool. See a little paper on there. And I bought it in an antique show that's got all kinds of little white pieces on it here. Let's see, let me bend it down. So I bought this at an antique show that was fairly near to us, and as I say, it's done on wool, on like a Penelope canvas, but I loved the bird motifs that were in the very center of this sampler. So I used only a portion again of this sampler, and the result was Eliza's French birds, which turned out to be very, very popular. It's certainly brighter when I reproduced it. I reproduced it exactly as it was stitched, but the colors on linen with floss were just so much brighter. Let's see, what did I do this in? Mostly Classic Color Works and Weeks Dye Works, and there's a DMC conversion. So there is a picture in the booklet that shows the original sampler. And then sometimes there are other elements in that sampler that I think are interesting that I can use in another booklet. So in the case of this sampler, there was a corner element that I really liked. There was a long element that I really liked, and I really liked the wreath. So let me fold this up and show you what resulted from those three pieces. So the three designs that I showed you became part of Eliza's Sewing Smalls, and my finisher did just a beautiful job. So the corner piece became a little scissor holder, and then let's see if I can open it without showing you the charts. That's going to be tricky. Let's see, here I can show you it like this. So this was the long side piece that I showed to you, and that became a pin cushion. And then there was one other little tiny piece, and again I'll have to cover this, and you can see that the small wreath became a scissor fob. So that is another way that I approach my design process. And as I say, I have kind of so many kinds of things that I do, so that's just one part that I do. So now I'm going to tell you about some original designs that I've done and where the inspiration came from. So the first one I'm going to grab is, actually it's a very springy design, so it's perfect for our springtime here, is this is the first in the series, and it was called Rabbits in the Round. And where did I get that idea? Well, I had seen a piece of fabric actually in my stash, which was, this sounds so goofy, but rabbits running everywhere on this fabric. And I really liked that idea. And as you know from my office, you can't see here, but I have, let's see, there's a rabbit lamp right there. There's a rabbit lamp that sits on my work table. Rabbits are everywhere. So why do I like them? I can't explain. So my finisher did this beautiful box. She covered a paper mache box in fabric, and then she cut this little stencil out of paper. But I want to show you the inside lid of the box. All right, I have several things to show you here. So this is Rabbits in the Round that is worked over 1 on a 28 count. Over 1 is interesting because it makes all the elements really stand out. And then I also took another rabbit design that I found, and I did it for the inside lid of the box so that it was kind of a surprise when you looked at it. So now, how does that design come about? Well, in this case, there are so many rabbits actually that have been used in antique samplers. So I'm going to hold this up again. So every single rabbit that is in this design was actually found in an antique sampler. So I would look at the antique sampler in my reference books, and I would chart it. And then, as I say, it's like putting a puzzle together when I do the round designs. And I don't think I pulled the file on this one. I pulled the file on several, but I do many iterations of one design. So I'll do the placement, trying to get them all kind of interlocking, and all of them were kind of facing in towards the center. And but I often do like 18, 15, 12 versions of this one. So I'll start out and then I move the elements off the page. This is done on the computer, and then I'll move them back in or turn them. And then to fill in that design, I use a lot of little just leaves and flowers. And that's pretty typical of all the round designs. Now, many of the round designs, I'm trying to think, there's a dogs in the round, there's a kitties in the round. Excuse me, I was able to find those in antique books, but then I went on, as you know, when I do my series, and like Halloween in the round, I could find cats and trying to think, pumpkins, etc. But in a lot of the later round designs, I'm charting all the elements because they really just don't exist in antique samplers. So that is kind of the design process for a round design. So let's put that over here. And now, what's another one I want to show you? All right, this one is another series, and this one came about. This is part of the Sing-a-Song series, and there are 15 stockings in this series. And I didn't start out to make that many, it just happens. And how did this come about? Well, I was at a show. This is what I remember, because I forgot to look up when I did the first one. It's been quite a few years, I'd say 8 or 10 years. Excuse me, let me grab water here. So it was after a show, and I was brainstorming with my friend Sarah about what can I do next. You're always trying to think, what is your next design going to be, or what can I do? And she said, have you ever considered doing like the Christmas songs or Christmas hymns? And I said, oh, that's a great idea. And I hadn't figured out yet how these were going to look, but we started brainstorming, and I love to make lists, so I made a long list, she and I, of every Christmas song and hymn we could think of. And then I had to think about, all right, how am I going to put these into a stitching format? So I do have some pictures to show you. So in this case, I usually start with a sketch. So I did a sketch of what I thought a little drummer boy could look like, and I always had to look up the words, so that because I only had room on the stocking, I decided to do stockings for each one to get like the opening lines of the hymn or the song. So in the case of drummer boy, it says, let's see, what did I end up writing? Come, they told me, a newborn king is born. Shall I play my drum? It's one of my favorite Christmas hymns. And so, as I say, I start out with a sketch, and then I start charting on the computer. So that was the very first chart, and then I keep changing the colors, the placement, etc., until I get it looking just right. So the final one is very similar to the first one, but there are small changes along the way. So that is how the Sing-a-Song series is designed. This is what the booklet looks like. And of course, this is what the model looks like. So in each case, I would do a sketch of what were the opening words of the hymn or the song, and then what kind of elements did I want to include. And so that was a very fun series to do. And I have a secret to tell you. I'm always doing collections. So I have decided, because it's very costly for people to buy all 15 titles, that I am going to be putting all of the titles into one booklet. And I'm very excited about this. I don't know when it will be released, but I was aiming for June, but I think that's unrealistic since we're already in May. So if it's not June, it will be July or August. So keep your eyes open for that. So here is another design that I wanted to talk to you about and how it came about. So I have several elements here to show you. I'm kind of noisy. So this is called the Chint's alphabet. And let me grab the book here as I hide myself behind the design. This was done, let's see, just 3 years ago. And this was such a fun one to put together. You know that I love alphabets, obviously, with all of my designs that use alphabets. But this was inspired by something completely different than fabric. It was actually inspired by some pieces of china that I own. This is called chintware. And I was very attracted to this because if you study it closely, probably hard to see, it looks like a cross-stitch pattern. It actually has a grid with all the different elements on it. And this was made by Royal Albert, and the pattern is called Petit Point, actually. It's very small, so I'm, squinting to read it. So I have quite a few pieces of this. Actually, one of my viewers years ago, when I first started, sent me a tray that is absolutely, beautiful. But there actually is a book. I have 2 books actually on Chint China because I used to collect other patterns in this piece. Both, interestingly enough, both of my books do not list Royal Albert or this particular pattern, but I found something very, very similar, which was also an interesting find. And this was called Pelham. You can see the chart for that. At the time, I didn't even realize when I was charting this design that this was in here, and it was manufactured by a company named Grimwades Limited, and these were all English pieces. And then I think I had another, here's another one that I had not seen or heard of, and this is called Queen Anne. You can see it here, right here on this page, and this was a Royal Winton china. So I don't own those, but that's okay. I have too many collections as it is. So how did this come about? So I started out, this was kind of a funny story. I looked in so everything that I design, I keep in files. I keep like the original sketches. I keep the progression of charts that I've done. This is, let's see, this is number 16 right here. So this one took a while. But I thought to myself, why wasn't I charting on the computer? Because this is what the original, my mock-up looked like. And the reason for that is my computer was being repaired for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it was really annoying because I couldn't get it back. And so I had to resort to the old-fashioned way of charting, which I did years and years ago, which was graph paper and colored pencils, which works actually. But once I got the computer back, I was able to transfer this to the computer, and then I did, as I say, many iterations. So this is number 3. Let's see, and it takes quite a while. I think it took 6 or 8 weeks to do this one. So I charted many, many flowers, birds, baskets, boughs, etc. It was really fun to put together and to find all the parts and pieces and to chart them. So that is another design process for you to see, and that was the Chint's alphabet. So those are all my stories about, let's see here, my design process, and I hope that that was something that was of value to you. So I'm going to continue on here, and in my last video I mentioned my shop of the week, and this was Colorado Cross Stitcher, and I'd forgotten to print out all the information in my very high-tech way. So we're going to do Colorado cross stitch again because she deserves another mention. And quite a few people wrote to me and said this is their shop, and they absolutely love Sherry's store. So it's Colorado Cross Stitcher. It's in Loveland, Colorado. Hopefully you can take a picture of this. There is her phone number, her zip code, her address, and her email is hello@coloradocrossstitcher.com. And if I didn't mention last time, I would urge you to watch her videos. They are outstanding. She does videos on color. She does videos, as I say, on making the little jewelry boxes. She'll show the projects that she is working on herself. They're very, very well done. So, and I'm sure she would appreciate your business because she has a great store. So now, where did I put this? I'm doing such a good job of putting everything away that I can't find. There it is, what I want to show you. So I thought I'd surprise you this time and tell you that I am going to give away 6 copies, the last 6 copies that I own actually, of Affectionately Yours. And I didn't pull names this time. I wasn't sure who would be interested, but I'm going to just say the first 6 people who write to me and mention the christening dress that send me your email address, of course, and I will happily send you a copy of this book. And if I remember, I'll autograph it, which is always kind of funny because I think I told you the story of years ago. Someone, when I was brand new, said to me, would you autograph my book? And I said yes. And then the next person that came into the booth, I asked, would you like me to autograph? And she said, what for? So I never autograph without people asking because it's not going into the Smithsonian, we know. So the best way to contact me is my email, judy@jbwdesigns.com. Gmail doesn't work well for me because I often don't check it, which is my own fault. So don't forget the email. I'll put it in the notes below. My Instagram account is judy.whitman. I have a Facebook page, which I didn't show you anything from this week. It's called Friends of JBW Designs, and you just have to answer a few questions to join that group. And then I have a website, jbwdesigns.com. It's badly in need of a redo, and I know that, so I'm sorry that it's so far behind, but I do have some of my older patterns for sale on that website. So I want to give you some quick family updates. As I told you, May is crazy. So our granddaughter Ashton's birthday is today. We're not going to be able to see her. She is an assistant coach for a softball team in Indiana, and they're going to a national tournament, so darn it all, she can't come home. So we're having a combination birthday party for grandson Cody, whose birthday is tomorrow, and Mother's Day with whoever can come tonight, which is most of the family. We're just missing 2 people. My sister Barb's birthday is next week. My son-in-law Craig's birthday is next week. Mother's Day is Sunday. I tell you, it's crazy, isn't it? And then the baby christening is next weekend. So I want to give you my quote of the day. And actually, I found this in this book, and I'd forgotten that I had written it in the book, and it's just perfect for what we love to do. True happiness comes from the joy of deeds well done, the zest of creating things new. And isn't that true for us? We just love our stitching. It gives a calmness to our life. It gives us joy. And I hope that you treasure those times that you're able to sit and stitch. So I want to wish you all a happy Mother's Day. I know for some of you that is probably hard. Your children are far away or you've lost your mom. But I hope you can find a bit of happiness and be able to share that day with someone in your life, even if it's just a good friend. So I will tell you all about our days the next time I see you in a couple weeks, and thank you so much for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.